Hello to everybody out there. You probably forgot who I am, but let me remind you. My name is Rabbi Pinchas Landis of Partners in Torah of Cleveland, and I am here with the one and only cohort, Rabbi Gamliel Nosson Halevi Spero. Rabbi Spero, how are you, my friend?
Baruch Hashem. August is always a slow time. I think everyone has permission to take off in August from this type of stuff. I don't think people... Maybe this year is different, but I don't know. I think August is
Rabbi Spero, I don't agree with you. You don't know how much hate mail I got of people who are expecting a weekly podcast from us, and we weren't giving it to them. In fact, we even had a Partners in Torah class last night that was Zoom bombed by a bunch of angry and upset rabbis, podcast fans that were looking for a podcast. So as much as you think people want to take off and not have one of our podcasts, I don't agree with you, Rabbi Spero. I think people are very upset with us right now. So we got to make it up to them.
My ego is very bad. My self-esteem is very low. So people are upset at me. It can make me very sad.
Yeah, well, anyways, it's kind of how it is. But tell me what's going on. What's been keeping you busy in August here with not doing podcasts?
It totally changed my schedule. It kept me busy. Regular stuff. We were in California together for a chasna.
Right, we were, and we both became famous. You were really famous because Rabbi Spero was the Masada Kedushin for the chasana, and whatever. It's Rabbi Spero became a wanted man after that night because the governor of California made it illegal to have public gatherings after that chasana. And again, it didn't take effect 2 days later, but they found out about
it was before. No, he made the rule before the chasna.
He made the rule.
The day of the chasna.
He made it the day of the chasana, and it went into effect 2 days later, or something like that.
We weren't officially breaking the law, though.
Right, we were not breaking the law, but they still went after you, and that's why you had to wear your Band-Aid get up to be able to get out of the state, because otherwise they wouldn't let you through the airport.
I was very relieved that when I looked at all the places that reported the news. The next day, I was looking with guys on their phones. No one said it was a Jewish wedding.
I know. I've made that comment numerous times. I'm very happy that's the case, that no one says Jewish wedding, and which was interesting because it wasn't just the helicopter shots. Like they had cameras on the ground. So right, I was in Baruch Hashem. Like usually the press jumps to the opportunity to call it out as a Jewish event. I'll say the other thing. The other thing that it was I don't want to bring any proofs from this. But it was not, put it this way, by pre-corona standards it was not a big wedding. By corona standards it was probably bigger than most people have been to, but it was all outdoors. And at the beginning of the chasna, most people had their masks on and everything, and they took temperatures going in, hand sanitizer and all that. But as people start eating and drinking, obviously the masks don't stay on and you forget to put it back on, and there are probably not as much mask as there should be. But interestingly enough, as far as I know, not one person there got sick, was sick, is sick, has been sick. So again, I'm not saying so it's fine. No, I'm not saying that, because I was talking to Rabbi Seideman from Baltimore, who was in town last week, and he was saying that 8 families went to weddings in Muncie, New York, and came back with the coronavirus. So, and again, so I think one of the differences here was the fact that it was outdoors. I think that shows you that outdoors really is helpful to this, that it's hard for the disease to travel outdoors. And that's probably the difference between these Muncie weddings where people came out to Baltimore with the virus, and here no one came back to Cleveland with the virus. So look, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but it was Baruch Hashem.
That's definitely been, the biggest takeaway has been no one knows. But I'll tell you one thing, one way to get rid of corona is, if you have it, plug in a hairdryer and shoot it up your nose. There was some rabbi saying that online a couple of months ago. He was telling people, all seriousness, the coronavirus is killed with heat. So therefore, you need to take a hair dryer and put it up your nose. So I did that actually in the beginning.
You better say that for the fun of it, just because, it's a fun thing to do.
When I heard he said it, someone sent me the clip. I was like, I wonder how it even would work logistically. My nostrils are way too small to equip I don't know how you do it even. But anyway, enough with coronavirus.
I think he was trying to spawn a new market. The market of coronavirus hair nose dryers. So yeah. Anyhow, but Rabbi, so I have so many questions for you. So many things I've been thinking about that I haven't been able to ask you because we haven't done the podcast. I haven't seen you.
Wow.
So I got a lot for you. Before, so let me give a quick update. Things have definitely been exciting around here. We've completely upgraded our digital recording abilities here. I'm now using our Torah Anytime camera hooked up to my computer. I got something called a capture disc or capture card, it's called, to be able to use the camera for our Zoom classes. I'm using my fancy lavalier microphone. You see? You got it there. I got a fancy light. I got a fancy light because I'm a very pale Jew, so we can make I can be more pale, I can be blue, or pretty close to my normal color. So that's exciting. Trying to upgrade our offerings. We've had some great classes going on. Wrapping up the Great Fights in Jewish History series, where we covered many great fights in Jewish history. I've shared with you some interesting ha'aras and thoughts from that. But the most exciting thing at Partners in Torah in Cleveland is we just hired an associate director who has moved in, Rabbi W. Jacoby, Shlita. And he moved in. I've already learned that it's a perfect shidduch, because as David Heller, our board chair, advised me early on in our hiring process, that when a organization hires, you need to hire in your weaknesses. And he said that he made this mistake early on at his company, NRP, numerous times, because he would interview guys and he'd say, "Oh, this guy's awesome," and he'd hire them, and it wouldn't work. And he realized after a while that he was basically hiring himself, right? The guys he connected with who said are just like me. Those were the ones I'm hiring, and it wasn't, it didn't work. So I figured out in Rabbi Jacoby's arrival process that we're already very different, because he moved here from Portland, did a cross-country road trip. He went to many of the Spero family outposts across the country. He did it was very similar to your type of trip with your father. And he eventually made his way here, not having a house yet. Like, literally moved across country. Like, he's like, "Oh, we're working on this one, we're working on that one." And completely laid back. Literally, he was supposed to move in a week ago Sunday, I think it was originally, and he moved in Friday. And it was into a totally different house than he thought he was moving into. Like, because he originally thought he had a rental, and the owner decided to sell it, and then this one fell through, and that one, and literally last minute, Baruch Hashem, so we're done. And the whole time the guy's like, still chill, and I know for me, I'd be jumping out the windows, pulling my hair out and using the hair dryer for my nose. So that was a great thing about Rabbi Jacoby. So we're very excited about what he's going to bring.
The story. So when we started the yeshiva, in the beginning, I felt that the yeshiva would work best with just me and Rabbi Weinberg and clones. So we did all these things. First, we tried to photocopy ourselves, didn't work. Tried all these different things to try to make more of us.
Yeah.
We made multiplication machines, didn't work. Eventually, we just had to hire other people. But that was our plan, was to literally hire ourselves.
Yeah, I hear it. And that reminds me of one of my best lines that I got from John Marks in Cincinnati, who I don't think you met him, but you met his bagel shop, Mark's Bagels in Cincinnati. So he has a line that I love, such a great line. I use it all the time. When you have to tee it up for me. Ask me, how am I doing?
How you doing?
So good, there should be two of me. Yeah, I love that line. Okay, anyhow, so that's some of the stuff we got going on. Looking forward to an exciting year. But anyways, I got all kinds of questions. And now I have to admit, as Chatani Mazkir Yom, I have not caught up in the Navi podcast. To where I'm holding in my study of Navi. So it could be that you address some of these questions in the Navi podcast, which if you haven't checked out the Navi podcast yet, you should. It's awesome. It's just a great product that we are putting out here at Zoomcast.com, and Rabbi Spero is putting out here at Zoomcast.com. So I'm I'm almost done with the life of Shlomo Melech and Divrei Yamim. So if you remember my style, I go, Melachim, then the same story in Divrei Yamim, and then anything else chronological. So when I finish Shlomo Melech and Divrei Yamim, I will then do Koheles, Shir Shir, and Mishlei, right? Yeah. Did I get them all? Koheles, Shir Shir, and Mishlei, right?
You should know there's a lot of machlokes in what order he wrote them.
No, right. That's true. That there's a base. It's interesting because basically any way you cut it, you're right, except for one. There's no one who holds Koheles came first. There's one sheet I was looking into because I was trying to figure out which one how do I do it? There's one sheet that says he wrote them all at the same time. So that's not first, that's the same time. And then
Shir Koheles. Mishlei.
Right, and that's a question of Shir Shirim or Mishlei came first, but no one says Koheles came first. No one who says they're written at different points in his life says Koheles came first. So, but I'm personally going with the sheet that they were all at the same time so that I can learn Koheles before Sukkot. So that's what I'm doing, because we really...
Unbelievable limud. All the chachma in the world is I'm learning Mishlei with someone now. We learn every day Mishlei. All the chachma in the world is in Mishlei.
Yeah, I can't wait to do. I can't wait to.
Mishlei, also Koheles, also Shir, but particular Mishlei is just so profound, and Shlomo HaMelech, the way he writes is just really just so brilliant.
Yeah, I cannot wait to do Mishlei. I've never learned it cover to cover, but I did have the privilege in Eretz Yisrael of learning it on Motzei Shabbos with Rav Aaron Feldman before he was my Rosh Hashiva, and then subsequently when I came back to Baltimore, and then I hired him as Rosh. And then he became Rosh Hashiva. He gave a vad for the Kailul in Mishlei. So I've done a lot of Mishlei with Rav Aaron Feldman, but not cover to cover. So I'm excited about that. I've learned Koheles before, but it's been a long time. Like probably I was 18 or 19 years old. It was it was a long time ago, but I read it every year for whatever that's worth. And Shir Shirim I've learned, but not well. I need a lot of work on Shir Shirim, so I'm excited about it. I'm learning to do
in a very interesting way. Shir Shirim is probably the hardest of the three to learn because of the way it's written.
Because of the metaphoric aspect. And then I think, I don't remember if I told you about that I also added in a Josephus Seder. And I think I did tell you about this. And part of it is because I'm in my history class at Chaviva this year. We're beginning with Bai Sheni, so Josephus is the main, the main thing. But a lot of thoughts about Josephus that we'll say for another time because I probably bore people with that. But I'll give you two questions that I have from Shlomo Melech. Two questions that are really bothering me. Number one is if you look at Sefer Melachim, and I'll give you the exact reference, and you'll tell me if this is on the Navi podcast. By the way, I looked here at my desk. I found out that Kan is not available in Cleveland because there's the distributor. It's the same distributor as Zman Magazine. For some reason, doesn't want to bring it into Cleveland. Now, I was talking to the guy at Jacobs at Grand Judaica today, and he's like, he wants it there. He likes Kan, but so far they haven't been able to get it. So we need to find out who that distributor is and do a run-by fruiting of his house and get Kan here in the stores in Cleveland. But anyhow, here's the first question I had. This is towards the beginning of Sefer Melachim, after the mantle of leadership or the scepter or the throne, whatever. Actually, we never talk about Shlomo Melech having a scepter. We talk about him having a throne. The throne being passed on to Shlomo Melech, to King Solomon. That there's a very interesting pasuk, a very interesting verse over here that none of the Meforshim speak about. And then somebody just out of the blue asked me a question that somewhat connects to this idea last week in the Beis Medrash at the Kollel. So if you look at the fourth parak or the fifth parak, if you look at it's before the Beis Mikdash. But I believe after he marries Bas Paro. Bas Paro is at the beginning, right? No, Bas Paro is later. I forget where this is exactly. I thought it was right at the beginning. Anyhow, here we go. No, it is after he marries Bas Paro, right? So Shlomo marries Bas Paro early, the daughter of Pharaoh, which common misconception if you don't learn Navi, that's not the Malka Shva, that's not the Queen of Sheba, that's totally different. This is his first mentioned political marriage, the Bas Paro. And Chazal say about this that this was not a good thing, that when this happened, that the angel Gabriel went and put a stick in the mud that became Edom, that became Rome. But, that's what he did at this point. And at least in the Navi, he's not criticized for it. He's criticized in Chazal, but not in the Navi. Later on, he is criticized plenty in the Navi, but not here. So anyways, that's the third parak of Melachim. The fourth parak, as I believe where this is, or maybe the fifth parak, I should have marked this. That's the problem. I'm going through so quickly. I'm not marking things. But in a subsequent parak, before the building of the Beis Mikdash, it refers to the kingdom of Shlomo and refers to it as Yehuda v'Yisrael, as Judah and Israel.
So why did it do that before it even happens?
Exactly. So yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't find the exact source, but right. And the obvious question is, this is long before the kingdom splits, And there's a reference to Shlomo Melech's kingdom as Yehuda v'Yisrael, as essentially one kingdom, but already some sort of split. Now, there's a lot, I think, to be said on this from a lot of different angles, but it is very interesting that the Meforshim, no one says anything. And
I did. There is someone who says something. I remember.
None of the main ones. I'm really sticking to the main four. I'm not going past the main four. So, but I did not say anything on it. And my thought was, again, it's after he's married Bas Paro, so there's already there's not a full split yet because the subsequent, mistakes that he makes or missteps that he makes hadn't happened. But there's enough. The Navi is already alluding to it, that there's going to be the split. You could say that. The other thing you could say is just quite simply, and I think this is probably Pshuto Shamikra, that while that might be the only time it was mentioned by Shlomo Melech, this is really still the beginning of Shlomo Melech's reign. And the distinction was made regularly with David Melech, because David, first of all, did rule separately in Yehuda and Yisrael, just like Rechavam. Well, Rechavam won't rule in Yisrael really for that long at all, a few days maybe, a few weeks, whatever it is. But throughout David Melech's whole life, there's the sort of split between Yehuda and Yisrael is mentioned, right?
I think it predates that. I think the split started with Yehuda and Yosef, right? And that's
100%.
Yisrael. I think the question I find interesting is in the first part of David Melech's life, really not the first part, really is after in his whole life, once he became king, the Shevet who had the hardest time with dealing with that was not anyone from Ephraim or Menashe. It was Shevet Binyamin. Now, the reason obviously was because Shalom Melech, right?
Right.
Shevet Binyamin, if you remember, was very small back then. It was after the Ma'aseh Pilegish, but not so many years after. They were by far the smallest Shevet. Shimon Gera was a cousin of I think a first cousin of Shalom Melech. So that's why it made so many bad feelings. But it's interesting when a split does happen, though. Binyamin is the only Shevet that stays faithful to Yehuda, along with Shevet Levi.
So, but I mean, again, I have my different. I haven't gotten up there yet. Oh no, I did get up there in Malachim. I didn't get up there yet in Divrei Yamim, but I definitely didn't go deep into it this time around. I think that was not necessarily. I mean, my gut feeling is that wasn't out of loyalty. That was out of expedience.
What is it? Because they said Mikdash, you're saying?
Yeah, I think that Binyamin was just not in a situation because geographically was not in a situation, numbers-wise was not in a situation.
I think let's say Binyamin would have decided that we're going to go with Yeravim ben Avat, right? We're mad at Beis David also. We're going to go with Yeravim ben Avat. That means Rechavam's Malucha, I don't know, would he have gone back to Hebron like David HaMelech did? I don't know what he would have done. But they really would have squeezed him into a corner.
Interesting. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. That's a good question. So along these lines, and this really bothers me. Like I'm asking this question to anyone who studies Nach, which is about 5 people that I know. But really bothers me that in the reign of David HaMelech, we spend a lot of time a lot of time is spent on the who will be the heir of David, who will be the successor to David. A lot of time. The whole of Shalom rebellion, obviously the whole thing with Shlomo Melech, Bathsheba, and then the oldest son after of Shalom, Adonyahu, his rebellion. Yeah, a lot of time spent on this. Like really a lot of time. And altogether, how many sons did David have? What was it? Like, I mean, the numbers. There was 15 sons, something like that. Like it was a lot by our standards, more than you and I have, Rabbis Spero, definitely more than me, but not a ton. And then we get to Shlomo HaMelech, who probably has thousands of sons with his 1,000 wives, and hundreds of thousands of sons he probably has. And we know he had 1,000 wives, but not one word. No one. What?
There's never mention of rebellion.
Not only rebellion, they don't even talk about like his successor. It's just like, Rechavam's the successor. Where'd that come from? And not only that, but again, I don't know this for a fact, but I would hazard to guess that not all of Shlomo Melech's wives were foreign princesses. Yes, there were a number of them, but I think he probably had some native-born Jewish wives too. Is that safe to say?
I'm sure he had, yeah, for sure he had some. I mean,
So why is the successor from one of the princesses, right?
No,
Rechavim's-
because I don't think Shlomo would have done that. I do think Shlomo HaMelech married those women specifically to send children back to the countries.
No, but
I think
Rechavim is
that
from
was the goal.
Rechavim's mother was from Midian,
Ammon.
right? What?
Wasn't she from Ammon?
Ammon. Right, so from Ammon or whatever. Not Jewish. I forget which one it is, but not one of the native-born Jewish ones.
Now,
So number one, there's no discussion, literally nothing. At least for sure in Mikra, and from how scouring around at least a little bit, nothing in the Chazal talk about why Rechavim out of all these sons.
I want to say I have an answer that I think might be true. I've been thinking about this from other angles. I'm not sure it's right or not, but I was thinking about this question, the famous question. Why did David HaMelech not build a Beis HaMikdash?
Right, we brought that up
Very,
there.
very well-known question. Why did Hashem only allow Shlomo to build it?
Mm-hmm.
Right, and it's a very interesting question. I know the famous answer people give. You look, and it's a pasuk in Shir HaShirim. It talks about it more than the actual Navi. Excuse me, Divrei Hayamim is what I meant to say.
Mm-hmm. Right,
and it says that David HaMelech, because it seems he shed blood. So a lot of Mefarshim take issue with that. What does it mean he shed blood? Number one, he only shed blood because Hashem told him to. Number two, within the mistakes David made, shedding blood is never mentioned. He made other mistakes.
Right. And by the way, number three, Shlomo Melech shed blood too. The whole beginning of Shlomo Melech's reign. You have Shimon ben Gera, you have Adonia, you have Yoav.
Shlomo personally did not do that, but nonetheless.
Right.
Still,
okay. Fine. Yeah.
Question good. And to make the question stronger, I think we mentioned this in previous podcasts, but Pinchas, right, who the grandson of Aaron HaKohen, the first person who became a Kohen in the middle of his life, he actually, when he killed Zimri and Cosby Basur, what reward did he get? He had a nice and nice Brisi Shalom. He got the Bris Shalom. So it doesn't seem to him that one of the person who became the Kohen Gadol, the thing that cemented his right to become the Kohen Gadol was actual bloodshed. And that was bloodshed done with his own hands.
But that's I mean good kasha, but I think it's a whole different kasha. The whole sug of K'noim Pogimbo, Pinchas.
Leaving that aside,
that's a whole different ballgame.
Even still, it is shedding blood. Okay, it's justified shedding blood. I saw about the answer brought down. It's all brought down from Yashiv Soloveitchik. It's all brought down from David Cohen. It's all brought down in a couple different places. I also saw in a very earlier source. I can't remember who said it. He said Pshat is like this. The Shlomo HaMelech, the Beis HaMikdash is called Nachla Menucha, right? It's a heritage, but it's also a Menucha. It's a place of restfulness. If you look in the history of Klal Yisrael in our over 3,300 year history, and really longer, if you want to count from Avram Avinu, let's count from Avram Avinu. It's close to 3,700 something years, almost 3,800 years actually. Klal Yisrael has constantly been in turmoil and conflict. There's only one kufa on Klal Yisrael where there is no turmoil and conflict. When was that? Shlomo. And that's when Hashem allowed him to build the Beis HaMikdash. And I think a simon, if you look at the beautiful gra, I was talking to Shalom Kamenetsky over the summer. I don't know if I mentioned this. I don't know if I had mentioned the podcast. I don't remember. But he showed me a beautiful gra from Shir HaShirim, where he's talking about the idea of Shalom. And he says the idea of Shalom, the gra writes, is so elusive in this world. It's so difficult. I was really bummed out this summer because maybe we'll discuss it next year more about Riches. I found out that one of the people, according to the Medrash, who complained in the days of Kairach was Nachshon ben Aminadav. Right? And the Medrash says that explicitly. He's not with Bnei Kairach.
He complained, meaning he was not in Das Kairach, but he was a complainer about what happened.
It's machlekes with which group he was. Was he one of the 250 people who came besides Kairach? Or was he with the Misayanim previously? It's machlekes, but it seems that almost a lot of them, unfortunately, seem to agree that Nachshon was one of the people who died. So they write all these different reasons. So the Taisus Das Canabali, Taisus, there's something that blew me away. He asked a question. He goes, when Aaron saw that Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem had showed the coffin, right? I don't know, remind me if I said this. If I did, I apologize.
It does not ring a bell. So
When the Satan showed the coffin of Moshe Rabbeinu, Taisus asked a very simple question. Why didn't Aaron appoint Nachshon ben Aminadav? He writes, or Kalev ben Yefuna. Those are the two people who at that point, even more than Yeshua ben Nun, who were most right for leadership. But why didn't he appoint them? Listen what Taisus answers. Because had he appointed them, it would have been easy to get it back. Because Aaron knew Moshe was alive. And he knew it was a mistake days. And it wouldn't have been easy. Meaning, that's a very difficult Taisus to understand. Taisus is saying they would have given it to Nachshon, and Nachshon would have said, I'm not giving it back. But that's what Taisus is saying, basically. So what's Pshat? This is a long Shalah. Again, I want to do it next year. We'll give it the proper time at Parshat Shlach. But there's a long Shalah Kaddish where basically says that Nachshon was one of those people. He was one of the people. He wasn't with Kairach. He wasn't sucked into the hole. He has a Chelik Elam Haba. But at the same time, he was a rebeller. It really, when I read that Shalah, it really bummed me out. I'm serious. It really didn't feel like if even someone like Nachshon couldn't be B'Shalom, even if he had tainas on Moshe Rabbeinu, right? According to the sheet, how are we supposed to live in peace? So Shalom said, look at this Gra. I looked at the Gra on Sefer Shirim, and the Gra talks about this idea of Shalom being this unbelievable thing, right? That's how Shas ends. Tarishval Peh ends with a mission on Uksin about the value of the Klimax of Bracha is Shalom, the most important utensil is Shalom, but at the same time, the Gra says it's so elusive. Shalom is such an elusive concept, and it really takes so much time to work on. So maybe we can say that, back to Shalom HaMelech, the reason why the Beis Hamikdash was built, and the reason why there was no machlekes about succession, was Klal Yisrael was living in this unique bubble during the days of Shalom HaMelech, where we were living on full gear, right? You know, it's like I was driving in Manhattan one time. I saw a Ferrari, right? So what's a Ferrari going to do in Manhattan? And really, the dumbest place. First of all, in Manhattan, you ding up your car like crazy. My opinion, the worst place in the world to drive. Right? Worst place in the world to drive. And second of all, is it a mile to have a Ferrari to go 19 miles an hour in traffic, stop and start? And that's not what a Ferrari's for.
Right.
One of the trips, one of the Bachram rented a souped-up Mustang. I remember this in Utah. The road, Utah, you go to these roads are long and clear, 80 miles an hour. Not like Montana's 85, best place in the country. Utah has 80 a lot of places. I remember this Bacher had it. He was scaring me to death. He was driving the car ahead of me. He was drunk. He was pulling up to 110. But the roads are clear. It's straight. And what's a Ferrari going to do in Manhattan? So I think Lahavdil, Klal Yisrael, we're like a Ferrari, but in Gullus, you don't see it fully. And we get caught up, in a lot of stupidities. I just saw there's a new Sefer out, which I recommend people get. And I saw Moshe Sorotsky. It's called The End. Right?
The End?
On The End. It's a great Sefer. It's a lot of Makairis about Mashiach and other things. And he writes, and he had a lot of discussions with Chaim Kanievsky as he was writing the Sefer. And Chaim told him one of the Simonim of Yemais Mashiach. Really, you look at the end of the Mishnah in Masechta Saita. He brings a story down that one of the Gedolim said every shul should have the last Mishnah Masechta Saita written on the wall to prove that we're in the Messianic era. But one of the things he says there that the Gedolim will fight with each other. There won't be any shalom. And Chaim said this is true right now. So I think that's certainly something that we live in a world of machlekes, in a world where shalom is such an elusive concept. And Shlomo HaMelech in his lifetime, the shalom was there. And that's what was so unique. Yeah, he must have, how many kids did Shlomo have? If he had 1,000 wives, he must have had at least 1,000 kids.
Yeah.
Maybe, look at him at first. I don't think he spent so much time with a lot of those wives, but nonetheless, let's assume he had 1,000 children. And obviously, Shlomo's chacham mikol adam. But Shlomo HaMelech can look at a court case and figure it out on the spot just by looking at the people's faces. You look at all the Mefarshim ask that question. How was he allowed to? Was he ruling through Ruach HaKodesh? Not allowed to do that when he ruled in these cases? We'll leave that question for another time. Certainly Shlomo HaMelech could look at his sons and say, this son, he's the best. This one of my sons, he's the one I'm choosing. And Rechavim, his name represents that. Rechavim is Miloshen Rachvus. He had a certain width to him, a certain breadth to him, which can relate to everybody. Lamaisa didn't work out. You said a few weeks. Was it so short? He came very short. That's for sure.
It was within a year. One second, I have my my codex here. I can give it to you. It was definitely within a year. It was not, whatever
right,
it is.
It seems like the issue with your Rava was in the first.
Well, again, here. So let me. So just I want to feed you. I want to keep going this way. But I want to feed you on that with something that it's interesting. The point you just made, because again, very strange things over there. Because already when Shlomo Melech, at the end of his life, he's already told this is going to happen. That your kingdom's going to be split because of your behavior, because of the things you did. The kingdom's not going to be held together. But as a because David was your father, really, and Schus David, which we see that throughout Chazal, that's a big thing. Is that it's Shlomo ben David? Shlomo ben David.
Right, for sure.
That's what we're talking about. So that's very much taken from the Mikra from over here, where the Navi tells him clearly that your kingdom's going to be split up. It's not going to happen in your lifetime because of David, but like as soon as you're gone. So again, and then there's this strange interaction that's almost like Rechavim's given a chance. So I guess you can say that it didn't have to be Rechavim. It could have been, after Rechavim. So,
I think, but again, Rechavim in his lifetime was the most qualified. He obviously must have been an extraordinary person. You see, the Navi is, he made some mistakes. He obviously made some huge mistakes. He gets a lot of credit because in the beginning, he does not go after Yerav ben Nevat. In the beginning, he listens and he doesn't engage in civil war. The civil war later on, many years later, but he keeps it without civil war. But I don't know. The whole thing is interesting. I think that one of the things to know, especially in Chodesh Elul, when we're working on building ourselves up, is to understand the human dynamic. And the human dynamic is so based on machlokes, sad to say, but it's true. We have such an atiyah towards division. And it's really an achrayas for every person in their own life. It's so easy to get bogged down in machlokes and get bogged down in bad feelings and speak lashon hara and bad about other Jews. And it's such a worthwhile goal, especially in El the whole year round, obviously, to work on that idea and not feel machlokes. That's one of the things, it's a very good thing at night before you go to sleep we say in the tefillah before Amapil, before Shema, we say, it goes through a whole lot of people that we forgive everybody. But I think this, when Rav Shalom told me that, it really put a lot of pieces together in my brain that Shalom is very elusive. That the conceptual idea of Shalom is very, very elusive. And we have to, when we want to bring Mashiach, there's always, every week, there's like a new thing, a new program in Shul. Work on this idea, work on that idea. And these are all good ideas. But certainly, I'm going to tell you an idea I have about that in a second. But certainly the idea of Shalom. Now, one of the things I know you're involved in is there's a sign in Zichron Chaim in Cleveland. It's actually, I think, for both shuls, that it was telling about Corona. It says on it, only use the bathroom if you really have to. There's some lashon in a sign like that, which I'm in love with that sign. I love it. And I'm actually considering, and I know you wanted to do this, we're going to have a Bezdin by the Yom Narayim. It's going to sit upstairs in a hallway for both shul. Every shul is going to have their own Bezdin. And to determine if you're allowed to go to the bathroom during Corona. That's what I loved about that sign. The sign was like, you can use the bathroom if you must. Like, is there anybody who goes to the bathroom and shul like, I just want to hang out for a little bit? It's Parshas Kisavai. It's a very long parsha. It's a long techacha. We're better to hang out in the bathroom in the middle of davening. So I'm going to go in here for a minute and chill. Oh, the sign says, then we'll have a bezdin. And you go to the bezdin and say to them, I need to go. How bad? 4. No. Go back and
how far do you live? How far is your walk home?
I go next time you're in Yavna, look at the sign. I can't remember the exact lashon, but it's some ambiguous way of saying, like, only if you really must go. Like, I just love the sign. I'm in love with it. It's
that's great. So
there's so many silly contradictory things. This is one of my favorite ones, though. I love the one also of like on a plane. Everyone wear your mask. I told you what they did to me on my flight. They did to me one of the biggest averas ever perpetuated upon me in my life. I never sleep on the plane. I can't sleep on a plane. I can't sleep sitting up. I was exhausted. You know my schedule somewhere. I was on the West Coast, and I came back, and then I was back in California again. I was exhausted. I fall asleep. I'm wearing one of those shields. Stewardess wakes me up in the middle and says, "Sir, that is not a sufficient mask. I've been wearing it the whole time in the flight. You couldn't tell me right away. You have to wait till I'm sleeping, Mamish. I fell asleep. So I punched her. It wasn't pretty. I don't know if you saw the news about that.
Yeah, well, that's amongst the reasons why they were looking for you in California. You know,
there's so much inconsistency. I think the inconsistency drives us all crazy. Like here in Yeshiva, right now in Yeshiva, I heard there's a lot of cases in Cleveland now. I just got for myself a plexiglass thing where I sit in front of. Me and Rabbi Katz, we both have those. I give Shir in the morning.
Bulletproof glass.
That's what one of the Baruch said to me. He said, "Is it because he's worried we're going to shoot you or because we're going to infect you?" Right? And also, that's great. You know what's great about it? It has one of those little holes on the bottom, like so we can do transactions by pushing stuff under the hole, like as if I'm a teller. One of the guys asked me for the rate in a 30-year mortgage. So, Lamaisa, what's the right answer? But then meals in yeshiva, no one wears a mask. Obviously, I'm having guys for meals this Shabbos. I don't know what the answer is. I'm going crazy, basically.
Yeah. It's look, whatever. I mean, I was kind of hoping we. Oh, what happened? Are you still there? Am I still here? Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry, something funky happened. Yeah, it's. I didn't think an episode would go by where we didn't touch on the situation, but you're right. It's crazy. It's hard to figure out. But oh, there you go. I was trying to send you a picture, but here I'm going to send it to you via email. So if you can get it quickly, it's definitely one you should bring up because it's important that after that interaction with that stewardess, what she made you do. So I want to make sure that we get this since you're the host and you don't allow me to screen share. If you can bring up this picture, I'm emailing.
I'm very upset. I was really.
So you need to bring up when you get that email. Bring up that picture. But no, I do like this. I like the topic that it's a very important one, the one of Shalom. And we had talked offline about an interesting interaction that I had recently. There was really in some ways shocking, where somebody called me and told me that after that 5 years ago I did something to hurt them. And this person had been holding on to this for about 5 years, just waiting for the time to mention it to me. And you look, Rabbi Spero, you and I spoke about this and how it was a very eye-opening experience because this particular person, it didn't add up to me that I could have hurt this person so badly that 5 years later they're still thinking about it. But obviously I did because they mentioned it to me, and I thanked the person at the time, and I said, I just really want to thank you because this was just completely not on my radar, and I can't imagine how many other people there are out there just like you that I'm such an unsensitive person. I didn't say that, but like we all probably have this. We all probably have this.
How do I raise my?
How do you raise your hand? I forget. I think it's under. Click on participants and click on raise hand.
I was going to raise my hand and say I'm one of the people who's upset at you.
Yeah, right. So anyhow, but the Musar Haskell was that really when we talk about being, doing a cheshbon and nefesh and really looking into our actions, that when we talk about that, it's really a real thing. And there probably are people that we sit down and think about it that maybe we have done wrong to. And literally 2 weeks after that incident, I had another one just like that somebody calls me in for a meeting for something, and they mentioned to me, again, another situation where it was something that I should have spoken out with another person, and they were hurt that I didn't speak it out with them directly. And again, this made sense to me. This I heard right away, but it's that same thing that had I been, first of all, to begin with, a little more sensitive, in the middle, thinking about my actions, realizing that this happened, but okay, someone else pointed out to me, but again, for me, the lesson is, and talk about Shalom and all these things, how much we have to really think about our bein adam l'chaver, our interpersonal interactions.
Right.
And that it's so easy sometimes to make mistakes and not even realize it.
Right. 100% of our land is you're saying good. Yes. Did
you get the picture? Did you get the picture?
I don't know how to put it. I can do. Give me 1 second. I can do it.
Oh, here you hit screen share and then click on your email. It'll come up.
second. Is it showing it now?
No, I was just saying your name, Nussin Spero. Anyhow, well, we'll get it on for next time. Okay. Anyhow, but yeah. So this is that's it's classical Jewish understanding. We all know this, but as Mrs. Shalom says, we always have to chazer over the things that we know, and that is that when we come to Yom Kippur. Oh, there you go. That's Moshe, right?
That's my kid. You know where that is?
Is that Moshe?
That's Moshe. That's in a field in Idaho somewhere.
He is huge. That kid got so big. My gosh, he's like going to be bigger than me soon.
He's like,
anyhow,
he's like probably 6 feet, 6'1". Yeah, big.
He's huge. So anyhow, but we know that Yom Kippur is mechaper on things that have been on the makom, but there's these things been on the chaver, and if we don't take and look. We talk about some of these machlokesim. Okay, with Shlomo Melech in Rechavam and in Yerovim ben Nevat, those are majorly machlokesim. But sometimes they're over very, very, very small things. Like according to some of the Meforshim, the whole fight between Cain and Hevel was like over something stupid. There's a lot of different shitas in Chazal as to what their fight was over, and a lot of them were just like it was just something stupid, and that's often the case. And when we look at especially World War I. We've talked about before the book Guns of August by Barbara Tuchman, and she makes this point beautifully. The World War I was basically a family feud, right? It was like a family rivalry that is just a question of Kaiser Wilhelm deciding that he wanted to be the head of the family. That's really like what it was. It threw the whole world into a major war, So
right.
Craziness. So I'm going to end with a trivia question, if that's okay with you. And you probably know the answer to it, but I'll ask you anyways.
I know nothing.
Who was the very first person offered the job of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the head of the Union Army under Lincoln? Who was the first person offered the job as the head of the Union Army under President Lincoln?
I thought General Lee.
Exactly. You knew it. Robert E. Lee. Excellent. Right, Robert E. Lee, right, and I figured that was fitting because right now the Republican National Convention is going on, and there's a lot of strife in the country today between Republicans and Democrats, and look, I fear that if I don't want to talk politics here, but I'm going to, for the sake of a joke, I'll do it. I fear that what might happen if a Republican's elected, just like what happened in the 1860s when a Republican was elected, that's and that didn't end well. But anyhow. But we're not going to talk about politics. Anyhow, okay, Rabbi Spero, I'm glad we're back in the saddle. I'm glad we're doing this again. I think our fans, maybe they'll get off my back, maybe they won't. But nonetheless, we are back. We're back to talk about Yom Noraim, the days of awe, Haboy Malenu, and Elul, Shofar, and it's amazing stuff. It's good stuff. And we just want to wish you all, because it's, you might not listen the rest of the month, but I know you will, but in case you don't, we want to wish you all a Kesiv V'Chsim Teva. You should be written and sealed for an amazing year, l'chaim tovim l'shalom, for good things, for peace. And again, that's one of the main, right to your point, one of the main brachos we say in this time of year is l'chaim tovim l'shalom. It's we want life, we want good, and we want peace. So that is what we're looking for, Rabbi Spero.
Yes. Good luck, Rabbi Landis. Well, I lost the screen again. No, I didn't lose it.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll find you. I still see your shin upon them. So, okay, we want to wish you all a great week, a great Shabbos, and we will see you all next week.